So I know we've talked a little bit about record types, when to use them, kind of general advice, but in this video I want to get into some specifics, and I also want to talk generally speaking around how to read exam questions and how to translate those exam questions or even real life scenarios into system logic and how to be successful both in an exam and with a scenario in real life. So let's take a look at a question, and the actual exam questions probably aren't quite this wordy, but you may get some questions that have the same general feel to them. If you want to pause the video and read this question on your own, feel free. The sales and marketing teams evaluate different information when capturing and viewing leads. The marketing team is interested in metrics like lead score and region, while the sales team wants to know what product the lead expressed interest in and when they intend to buy. To avoid confusion among departments, only the fields that each group is interested in seeing should be displayed to each respective set of users. How should this be configured in Salesforce? And we have to select two answers from either of the four. Configure validation rules to ensure data integrity. Configure two lead record types. Configure two lead page layouts. Configure two profiles. Now I want you to think about this one. Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like, and we're going to go over a second question, and then we're going to go through the answers to both. So here's question number 2. There are two types of leads within your organization, hardware and software. Different information is captured for each lead. For software leads, the sales rep must capture what software the lead last purchased and when the current licenses expire. For hardware leads, the sales rep must capture how much available rack space the lead has as well as the size of their server room. Only relevant fields should be displayed for each type of lead. If a prospect is interested in both hardware and software, then two leads are logged separately as they are ultimately assigned to separate sales reps. The inside sales team pursues both types of leads. What steps are required to support this scenario in Salesforce? Again, select two answers of the following four. Configure validation rules to ensure data integrity. Configure two lead record types. Configure two lead page layouts. And configure two profiles. Same situation here. Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like. And we're going to talk about the answers to both of these and do a little bit of question analysis as well. So let's talk about the first question, and what I've done here is just highlighted the key terms. So the sales and marketing teams evaluate different information when capturing and viewing. When we say the sales and marketing teams, what this is generally going to refer to is either some type of role, profile, or group designation that separates the two. And then we have evaluate different information when capturing and viewing leads. Now, what this is really talking about is different information probably means a different type of layout, perhaps, or some other way of presenting the information. And so at the bottom, only the fields that each group is interested in seeing should be displayed to each respective set of users. So if we line up these fields here, in orange we have the sales and marketing teams, we have the respective set of users, and then in blue, we're saying very specifically that only the fields should be displayed to each set of respective users. And so let's look at the answers. And so let's start with validation rules. And validation rules are used to conditionally prevent a record from being saved. So this one doesn't have any relevance at all. Let's talk about record types. And if we choose to use record types to deliver this solution, let's just kind of dig into this a little bit deeper. First off, we know that we only have two answers, so if we're going to use record types, then we are necessarily going to need page layouts, because the page layouts are how we're going to display different information when capturing and viewing leads. That would necessarily mean, based on the fact that we can only choose two answers, that we are not using profiles. And from a best practices standpoint, that's probably an unlikely scenario that we're going to have sales and marketing sharing the same profile. if they're viewing leads in a different context. The other thing to be aware of is the only way that this would work if we were using record types is if sales and marketing were in fact assigned the same profile, then each of the leads that they created would have to have a different record type for each lead. However, there's nothing in the requirements that says that they're not going to be able to view each other's leads. And in fact, it pretty heavily implies that they're going to be able to view each other's records because we're trying to avoid confusion. We're not trying to implement security or anything like that. We're simply trying to make sure that we're giving the best user experience. And if sales and marketing are both accessing the same set of leads and they're doing so from the same profile, then that would mean that sales could end up viewing a marketing lead and getting the wrong page layout. And so I know there's a fair bit of room for interpretation in this question, and this is one of the more challenging ones in that aspect, which is why I like to present it. Being able to read into the underlying context and intention of the question can often lead you to the correct answer. And so that is ultimately how we would answer this question: configure 2 lead page layouts and configure 2 profiles. Let's look at the second scenario. Now, this one's a lot more detailed, and if we go through and kind of read through this again, only the relevant fields should be displayed for each type of lead. And that's a clear designation that's saying that we're treating these types of records differently. The other thing that makes this question very clear to answer is when we say that the inside sales team pursues both types of leads. Well, if they're pursuing both types of leads and we're treating both of those leads differently, there's absolutely no way that we can do this without the use of record types. So what we would need in this scenario is 2 different record types, one for hardware and one for software. And then we would need 2 different layouts, again, one for hardware and one for software. We can assign both of those record types to the inside sales team, and that would meet the need of this scenario. So now that we've gone through a couple of these scenarios, what I would encourage you to do as you read through sample scenarios and other materials and practice questions is to think in terms of what pieces of the question you can translate into system terminology. So when you see things like users, okay, well, do we need to apply that to roles or profiles or groups, etc.? And when you see things like display of information, well, are we talking about page layouts or record types? And part of what's going to make you successful is just the experience of knowing all of the features really well. But at the same time, if you can translate those business requirements or those scenario types of requirements into system language, that's really a good portion of what successful exam taking is all about. So I hope that was a helpful video. Thanks for watching.